And I will call this meeting of the Champaign-Urbana, or the Urbana Public Television Commission to order at 12:05-ish on March 9th, 2018. Would the clerk call the roll?
Certainly. Commissioner Wadsworth?
Present.
Chair Folk?
Present.
Commissioner Cinder?
Present.
Commissioner Fuller?
Present.
Commissioner Inskeep?
Present.
And Commissioner Polk notified me she's traveling. She may or may not make it today. Other than that, we have a quorum.
Great. Do we have any modifications to the agenda that anyone would like to propose? And the minutes from our last meeting. Does anyone have any changes that they would like to suggest?
I move to approve the minutes.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. And moving on to correspondence. Did we have any correspondence?
There was no correspondence addressed to the commission this quarter.
Okay. And we're dealing with the other item under new business? Is that right? Okay. Staff report. Or maybe that's staff report.
I just wanted, first of all, just to really quickly thank all of the city staff and UPTV volunteers and commissioners that had sent me good wishes while I was gone. It really helped me. And I want to thank Ethan and Andrew and Sanford and most particularly Jason for holding the place together so nicely while I was gone. There is a great interview with Jason by Joey Wright, one of our up-and-coming stars, and I've included it in your packet just so you could have a look at it. It's also on the city website if you're interested. Before the accident, Jason and I had talked about replacing the kind of granular numbers-laden annual report that UPTV has done with a more descriptive, readable account of exactly what we've done in the past year. And I'm assuming you all got the email that Jason sent out December 7th, where he basically did just that. I really was pleased to see that. And as he mentioned that in that letter, we postponed the annual meeting then in December, as well as your meeting. And we had already talked about holding a second meeting in July, so we're going to try to make that happen, I think, and that'll serve as our membership meeting this year. Number of new programs in the past 6 months. Members who've produced programs include Linda Turnbull, who's done her usual great recording of the CU Day events. Lardell Williams, the Spirit Man. Joseph Wilson's doing a program called Ignite. Stuart Levy and Karen Aram have recorded and produced a number of programs, including Boycott, Divest, Sanction, Worshipping Power, and the Role of Women in Stopping Nuclear War, which was a panel hosted by State Representative Carol Ammons. Reed Baker and Leah Shoup are doing God's Word to Feed Your Soul ministry. Returning are the Reverend Evie Davis with Saving Souls and Making Disciples, and Carletta Donaldson has resumed her really valuable weekly recording of the University-wide Friday Forum, which we broadcast Thursday evenings at 10 o'clock. And we also hope to welcome back Renee Angela, who does Health and Soulful Being. She's planning to come back in April. We've had a number of staff productions as well with the participation of production intern Andrew Scolari. We had a variety of performance from the Sweet Corn Festival in 2017, recording and broadcast of the CU Pride Parade. There was a presentation by popular author Maggie Stiefvater at the Urbana Free Library. The Illinois Bicentennial Flag Raising Ceremony, the Airport Road Ribbon Cutting Ceremony, Jason just recently recorded a business and development luncheon under the title Urbana Innovation, and that'll be on the air soon. Jason sent me a note on some of the short features that he's been working on in the past 4 months. He said, I did just produce a feature on the murals on glass artists at the City Building and the Phillips Rec Center. He reproduced features he had already completed on Phil Edwards and Rhonda Foster. Originally, the features were to promote an opening in the fire department to the public. He's reproduced them so they are now under the umbrella Urbana Stories. And he said there's going to be more Urbana stories to come. So that's kind of a new regular modular feature you'll see on UPTV. We also continue to use segments from It's All About You as modular drop-ins throughout the day. Jason's in the process of producing some new station IDs, which will be nice as well. We have a new communications director that's going to be starting in March, and we're hoping that she will be able to continue the It's All About You program. We have entered 3 productions into this year's Best of the Midwest Regional Festival. Production by volunteer and now part-time camera operator Jacob Bernard. He recorded a WEF sessions with Los Guapos. Joey Wright produced and hosted a fall sports preview for Urbana High School, so we submitted that. And Jason submitted one of the Urbana Fire Department recruitment videos. We also entered that last one into the National Hometown Media Awards competition by the Alliance of Community Media. Jason is traveling to the Wisconsin Community Media Spring Conference, and that'll be in May in Oshkosh. And in addition to attending the conference, he's been asked to be a presenter during a workshop on creating school-based media programs. So that should be a lot of fun. Along those lines, people I think, are increasingly realizing that UPTV is a resource that they can utilize in fulfilling their own missions. We were contacted by the University YMCA, and Jason is now helping produce videos for the Leadership Awards ceremony they're having there. We were contacted by Hannah Sheets and Eric Enger from Community Choices, and Jason and I met with them, and we are now in the process of developing programs by, for, and about developmentally disabled citizens. It's going to be largely their involvement in these programs, so it'll be mostly by and for them, and we're really looking forward to that. We were contacted by the Illinois Campaign for Political Reform, and we're now running 2 long-form programs from them. It was from their 2017 Summit for Action in Civic Reform, and the programs we're running are on the 2018 Illinois elections and one on running for office at the grassroots level, which we're happy to have. Also, after Comcast cut the Weather Scan channel from their lineup in October, Jason said he received some feedback from viewers about that, and as a result, we now have scheduled weather coverage along with some national news from 4 to 5 a.m. on weekdays and at 10 p.m. on Mondays. And this is in addition to, our usual frequent weather and news updates throughout the day, but these are scheduled times that people will know they'll be on. He's also produced a couple of troubleshooting guides for people that have trouble with the live stream on their devices or their browsers. And those are available both on the city's website and on UPTV's website. We had representatives of the Parkland and Champaign stations come here for a webinar on closed captioning and new regulations involving that. And briefly, the upshot of the story is that we are not mandated to have closed captioning at this point yet. So that's Financially, that's good news. We will be recording and rebroadcasting several times an Urbana City Administrator Candidate Forum that will be held March 20th. You might want to attend that if you, there are 4 candidates who will be presented and will answer questions from the public. And we just finished revising the UPTV underwriting brochure, so it's now an evergreen brochure and should last us for 2 or 3 years in that respect. Our underwriting efforts were kind of snuffed out in September when I went down, but we're sending the new one to the printer next week, and we're going to be resuming those efforts. And I'd again ask any of the commissioners that have contacts or leads to get in touch with me. And I also want to thank Dana Mancuso for 19 years of service on the UPTV Commission, which is kind of amazing. She's gone to the university now, and so her seat is open, and it has been filled by the Urbana Park District's new hire, Mark Schultz. They're nominating him for that position. Probably all of you know Mark through his various, he's been in the media here, he's worked for the university, he's worked for the school board, so we're currently in negotiations with him on a regular Park District meeting, Park District program that he would host. He's a little more, into the media, so that'll be good. Jason's also been, of course, doing the Urbana High School sports, and I'm going to turn it over to Jason now for that and for our social media report.
Thank you. Urbana High School sports, we're starting our spring sports broadcast next Thursday, starting off with a baseball broadcast at Prairie Park, and then we'll have 5 baseball games total, 5 softball games, and a girls soccer game as well, so another full slate. And of course we'll continue our coverage of 8th grade promotion ceremony at the middle school and the class of 2018 graduation commencement ceremony. Looking at our social media for the last quarter here, I'll pull that up. Our most popular tweet was from our Urbana High School sports program advertising a game that we were live streaming on the NFHS network, and that got a lot of retweets. I think a lot of that had to do with tagging the Bloomington High School Raiders. It kind of promoted a little bit of a rivalry there, so each of the schools were retweeting and liking that, and that kind of expanded the coverage from there. Our second one was also that same day. We again tagged the Bloomington High School Raiders basketball Twitter account, and we took a clip of Bloomington High School has an Illinois recruit, Chris Payton, who did a 360 dunk, unfortunately against the Tigers, but it was still very popular on Twitter, and that got a lot of impressions as well. Our most popular Facebook post was a video that we posted. It was a clip of It's All About You. We did an interview at the Vineyard Church, as it was the site of the Martin Luther King Jr. celebration this year for Champaign County. So we went there to promote the event, and then I took a little clip, posted it on Facebook. I was able to tag Vineyard Church in there, and they retweeted it. And again, I think that's what caused, especially when you look at the demographic of their top audience, women 45 to 54. I don't think that's necessarily all those people were drawn to UPTV's Facebook, but I think that had a lot to do with Vineyard Church there. Our next most popular Facebook post was from the Martin Luther King Jr. celebration. The keynote speaker was Sally K. Carter from Tap In Leadership, and we just took about a 1-minute snippet from her speech and advertised when the celebration would be on the air. So that got a lot of impressions as well. Moving on to YouTube, this isn't that surprising. We covered the Urbana Middle School. They host the 8th grade Class 4A basketball championship, and they were also in the championship game. So that got 814 views so far. I assume that number will increase even more so. We covered the 2016 8th grade class championship, and that's over 4,000 views right now. So I assume that number will continue to increase. But we had the high school students there, so Joey was there. Very exciting game. Unfortunately, Urbana came out in second place in that game, but very exciting atmosphere as well. So it was very cool to be part of that. Our second most popular YouTube video was Boycott, Divest, Sanction, which is one that Jake mentioned that Stuart Levy and Karen Aram had a part in producing. And this one continues to grow as well. It's only been up on YouTube for maybe a week or so. I took this screenshot yesterday at 645 views. I checked it again this morning. It's at 705 views, so 50 people viewed it overnight. So I imagine that's another one that will continue to grow from there. I also have a clips reel here from the last quarter if we're ready to view that. And you might see a familiar face on there.
Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays from the Urbana Fire Department. From our family to yours, we wish you a safe and happy holiday season.
James Earl Jones or other tenants in this building?
James Earl Jones in this movie. I don't know who
What in
he
the
owed
world
money
happened?
to.
Yeah, who was his agent? Fire that man immediately.
I mean, the scene where he's sort of trying on a series of wigs.
Oh, don't get me started on that scene. It's so problematic.
Essentially what Iran got out of the agreement, that they didn't have to give up their enrichment, they didn't have to give up their nuclear scientists. If the U.S. broke the deal, Iran could break the deal. The realistic outcome with North Korea, I think, is something like that. They're not going to completely give up their nuclear capacity.
People say that, oh, Satan did this, Satan did that. Satan can only affect you if you allow him to affect you. If a thought comes to your mind and you don't act on it, Satan can't destroy you if you don't act on the thought.
This is by far the thing that I look forward to the most every single year. I've been here 10 years now, and this will be my 10th year doing Shop at the Cop, my second year organizing it. To be able to bring kids into an atmosphere where they can have a positive experience with a police officer, interact with the child while they're shopping, I mean, it just means it's everything to us. And I've talked to children years later, and they never forget this experience.
But these cost $1, and I just love them. Hallelujah. I love what God does. I love what he shows me. I love where he takes me and puts me. It's just, ooh, 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 ooh. I'm excited about what he does in my life.
It was nearly lost. Now it's Chase Adams inside.
Good defense.
Blocked by Boswell.
Good defense, Kylan Boswell.
Kylan Boswell's not a tall guy, but he played fundamental basketball. Sails a three, and he knocks it in! The crowd loves it, and a timeout, Coach Butler. Everyone on the Tigers side on their feet.
6-point game, Joey, 6-point game.
Oh, my.
It's a lot of people that can help you, but you just got to, go out there and show them that you're willing to get helped and that you want it. Because, I mean, from being in Chicago, you just can't go up there, expect somebody to hand you something in your hand and then it's free. No, but there's people out there that see that you working real hard to get where you need to be in life, and they will help you.
There's something like truly magical about Central Illinois. One is one of the flattest parts in the country. The fields make these beautiful patterns. They're hundreds and hundreds of years old, and there's history, and it's just absolutely awesome. This one is South Farm number 9, and this one's on wood.
You believe that God is Lord, you believe that Jesus Christ is the risen Savior, the anointed one, you shall be saved. Saved from what? Saved from the enemy. Saved from the attacks of the enemy, the traps from the enemy. And then when he's saying that you're saved, that means eternal salvation, where you can be able to go up and go up higher and go to heaven with him.
I ran out of corn. I need to make a bigger casserole. Are we kidding? Sorry. I'm sorry. The diva didn't bring the turkey. I'm sorry.
Brought you anything?
That's not Christmas food.
Me?
Cookie! I'm sorry.
There's a quote from the South African playwright Fugard, and in a very recent interview at the age of 86, he says, "I found myself believing, and it is an act of faith that has stayed with me to this day, that putting words on paper is a valid form of action. You can throw stones, Molotov cocktails, petrobombs as hard as you want at those armored cars. Words can do much, much more than that."
You're going to be deciding, as the days and years unfold, what you will do in life, what your life's work will be. Once you discover what it will be, set out to do it, and to do it well. Be a bush if you can't be a tree. If you can't be a highway, just be a trail. If you can't be the sun, be a star. For it isn't by the signs that you win or fail. Be the best of whatever you are.
We'll be happy to entertain any questions.
Any questions from the commission?
Very diverse.
Great work as always.
Yeah.
Moving on to audience participation. We don't have any audience in the studio at this time, so I'll move on to unfinished business. Do we have any unfinished business to discuss? Okay. And then on to new business. First up is the viewer complaint and proposed action.
Yes, we had a complaint from a viewer about a program in the 9/11 TV series, which is sponsored by one of our members. And the program has been viewed by city staff, including Sanford, and we don't see any reason. There is no call to violent action or anything in it, so it seems to fall pretty squarely in our free speech guidelines. Jason wrote a nice, very, I think, very on-the-spot response to it, and Mr. Alsop did respond to that with a one-sentence response, but after that we've had no contact from him. Well, the mayor, I'm not exactly sure where this suggestion originated, if it was from staff or from the mayor, but at any rate, what we propose doing is to identify the listener, the member sponsor on a slide that would follow each broadcast of a program like this by name. So it would be like signing a letter to the editor in the paper. You can't submit it anonymously. Now, this information's always been available. We don't have any secret members or anonymous members, but this would put it on the screen in front of the viewers so they know that this is specifically from a member of the community that is sponsoring this program, and not a City of Urbana production. We ran the disclaimer that we usually run before and after this program. So that would be the only call to action, would be to let you know that we plan to do this, and seek your comment on that if you think that's a good idea.
I just had a question, Jake. Is it public information who sponsors a program on
Yeah,
UPTV?
it's
How can you find that out?
You would just get a hold of UPTV, and now it'll be on the screen when a member sponsors a program, but up until that point, you're always welcome to call us. We'll be happy to tell you who the member sponsor is.
Is it formally public information that is FOIable, or is it?
I would assume it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have, when somebody makes a request to sponsor a program,
Mm-hmm.
do they sign a document of any kind?
You sign a document as when you become a member of the station.
But when somebody sponsors a program, is there
Right.
a piece of paper or a formal process for doing so?
We used to have the program submission form. Are we still using that, Jason?
No, that's all covered when we redid the policies and procedures last year. It's all covered within the document of when they sign the policies and procedures.
Yeah. So when they do that, they acknowledge they viewed the material and it's not illegal, and they take copyright responsibility for it.
But to answer Chair Folk's question, I think the key is, if it is something that is going to be released, yes, we would always have answered the question if it came in, but if we're being more proactive about who sponsors the programs, I think that needs to be made clear at the time that somebody is sponsoring something, so that they're not surprised by having their name on the screen.
Yeah, we assume that we would have to amend the policies and procedures, and I have not talked yet with legal about this, but we are assuming that all of the members will have to re-sign their acknowledgement and acceptance of this policy amendment.
I would say that may or may not be necessary, but
Well, I'm going to leave that up to Jim.
yeah, amending. But I think at the same time that we should have some sort of, even if it's a 2-sentence declaration that people would indicate when they are sponsoring a program that says, I'm sponsoring this program. I acknowledge that my name will be listed before and after. The request was made to do it before and after, not just after.
Yeah, to me, doing it before our program makes no sense, but I'd be happy to do that.
And I'll give some, this suggestion did come from the mayor, and her analogy was the letter to the editor. The News Gazette will not publish a letter to the editor that's anonymous, and where you get the anonymous posting is in, for example, the News Gazette comments, and you see the level that they descend to, whereas the need for somebody to affix their name to it is going to indicate to that person that they are putting their own name to be associated with this.
I get that, and I can't say I'm particularly opposed to it, but I also recognize the value that our nation has seen in anonymous political speech over the years. Since, over the years being since 1776, or probably before. So it's a little bit concerning if, I don't know, I guess they could always produce it anonymously. Someone could produce it anonymously, and then it could be not anonymously sponsored.
Well, I think that's a key point. There's a distinction here between UPTV member-produced content and sponsored content. And I think that
Well, but we're not proposing to. Sorry, go ahead.
No, should a UPTV member produce content, this would not necessarily apply to them. The specifics of this were sponsored content from outside of the member productions. So, to me, there's a slight difference between those two scenarios. But that does not resolve your question or comment about the freedom of anonymous political speech.
Yeah. It's a thorny topic.
I think it's a good idea. I would appreciate it. And in fact, many times when I've watched UPTV programs, I have been curious who in our community brought it forward. Not because I disagreed with it, but I was just interested in who's sponsoring it. And I think it walks a nice line of supporting free speech. We're not censoring or restricting, but to use this resource, we ask that you come forward by name.
Has legal reviewed the proposal?
No, I wanted to consult with you before we moved ahead on this.
The legal division was in on some of the discussions of responding about the specific complaint.
I guess, to me, if that information, who sponsors a given program, is FOIA-able public information as it stands now, that's one thing. And to me, it's very different if currently that would be considered private, confidential information. Like, you can't FOIA my parking ticket records. Would be very expensive if you did, because of the number of pages.
We only charge if it's more than 50 pages, unfortunately.
Oh man! All right.
Can't you go on the clerk site and just look at those?
Yeah, you probably can.
Yeah, you don't need a FOIA for that. It's public information.
We're going to look
Well, there are, I don't know what the details, apparently that was a terrible example, but there are things, interactions that you have with your government that are not part of the public record. And I'd like to know whether this is one of those or whether it's a public information. And I guess I would support a motion to put it before and after, and I do like before and after if we're going to do it. I would support a motion to put that up there if there's a caveat that that's only if it's currently public information that would be subject to FOIA.
I would be happy to pursue this matter as far as the Alliance of Community Media is concerned. I think they would be a valuable resource in determining to what extent that is public information, to what extent that is allowed to remain confidential. I'm sure this has come up before.
Does somebody want to make a motion at this time?
Does it make sense to explore it further with legal and come back to us to discuss it a little further in case there are any issues that we would need to be aware of?
Okay, I guess that says this stays as new business, or next month it'll be old business, and or next quarter, and I think there's some support for that, but it's a touchy area. So
I understand that, and I understand your concerns and agree that we should pursue that. It shouldn't take too long.
much as I would like to know that information also, I think sometimes there's I don't know. I guess, is there any further discussion for that topic among the commission?
I was just curious if this was just one episode of a continuing series that was in question, or if this is a series which has been subject to complaint.
This is an umbrella title, 9/11 TV. It is an organization that makes available a wide variety of video programs on a wide variety of topics. It's not all 9/11 truther material. There have been some really valuable programs. There was an interview with Dick Gregory before he died, some other things. It explores areas of politics that I think are sort of left in the dark sometimes, or on the fringes of what mainstream media will cover. So we've probably run 200 programs from 9/11 TV, probably more than that actually. And this is the first complaint we've ever had. So. And this was not part of a series. There are occasionally 2 or 3 part programs, but this was an individual episode, a standalone episode. So.
Any further discussion? All right, moving on to the the second item of new business, which is assumption of some cable commission duties.
Again, this is something that occurred while I was out, so I'm just kind of reporting on what has already happened. The Cable Commission was decommissioned by the city councils, and there are 9 duties of the Cable Commission that could be added to the Urbana Public Television Commission's duties. We could make it as simple as saying yes right now, or we can discuss those duties and whether you feel comfortable with that. It's up to you.
I can add some details as to what's in your packet. So if you look at the pages that are identified as new business B, this is a section of the City of Urbana's ordinances related to the UPTV Commission. Some of the changes that were made and the ones that I've commented with my, they're sort of shaded on the first page of new business B and the second page even, those were changes that were actually made as part of the repeal of the Cable Commission. And what they were doing is they were cleaning up the language to say, you know, since there's no Cable Commission, we need to clean up the language in the UPTV Commission that mentions the Cable Commission. So all of the text on the first 2 pages is already done. That was part of the City Council's action. When we presented to the Council to discuss the repeal of the Cable Commission, there was some pushback from Council about the duties of the Cable Commission. And there is a list under the Cable Commission ordinance of about 20 to 25 duties of the Cable Commission. Jason and I reviewed that list and identified ones that we thought were worth bringing forward to the UPTV Commission to see if you want to take on these tasks yourself. Those appear at the bottom of page 2 and continue on the back of page 3. So that's the only sort of new section, is starting with number 4 at the bottom of page 2.
And so those are not in place yet, but have been proposed.
That's correct. That's correct. And those are lifted verbatim from the old Cable Commission language and pasted here.
I'll note that one of the duties of the Cable Commission that's listed here is an annual report, which was their annual report on UPTV. So it definitely makes sense to do something of that in that regard. Is there any commissioner discussion or any motions that the commission would like to put forward?
If I could offer one suggestion, concerning that annual report, it does conclude with hourly subtotals for various programming categories. That's an extremely onerous task on staff, and those are usually figures that are looked at once and never looked at again. As I said, we've been moving towards a more descriptive report annually, so you might want to consider striking that as a requirement of the report. We also, Jason and I have been talking about focusing more on the on-demand content, since that is more and more where our viewership lies. And the totals for things like YouTube views and things like that would be probably as relevant, if not more relevant, than the yearly annual countdown of hours on a granular basis. So.
Can you discuss that the annual report and how it is disseminated currently?
Well, we didn't have one this year because I was in the hospital, and Jason sent that email to all the membership that basically served that function. It contains our achievements over the past year and our plans for the future year, and that is pretty much it. It sort of it summarizes the various categories that we do, and I think presents by example our activities in each of those categories. So.
And you're comfortable with the staff burden on creating that style of report?
Oh, I think it's essential.
Okay.
You know, it's essential for us to reevaluate what we do on at least an annual basis, and to promote that to the public and the membership and the council and all concerned. So it's nothing we'd want to get rid of.
In the past, have you made that report have you made that more, I forget how you described it, but more readable report?
Yeah, I've been sort of slowly moving in that direction, and this is the only specific specification for that hourly subtotal that I think exists. So that's why I say that would give us much greater leeway in reshaping that annual report.
What about at a broader level? Then one of the things that is in multiple of these points is this idea of sort of serving in a helpful way to provide guidance and expertise to City Council with regards to telecommunications, which, you know, as we talked about when we went through the discussions of the Cable Commission, there were sort of two functions of the Cable Commission. One was to sort of regulate the franchises, which we all agreed was not as much of a relevant anymore. The other one was providing a input to council on decision-making with regards to telecommunications. So we emphasize saving those duties or responsibilities and incorporating them here. How does the commission feel about taking on that responsibility?
Go ahead.
Since there was a considerable overlap between the two commissions, and the CU Cable Commission had difficulty in fulfilling that, I wonder if this commission might not face the same difficulties. I think there's as the commission is currently composed, there's a shortage of expertise and time with regard to fulfilling that requirement or that desire. The desire is there, I think, but the ability to fulfill, I think, may not be practical.
So one of the things that when the Cable Commission repeal was coming up, one of the things that I brought up was that to me it's a question of what the councils need and want to do their job. In watching some of the video, I saw them request from staff options of what they would, how they might get that. Is this what the staff came up with as those options, or was there more detail to?
Correct. We gave them options, which was essentially repeal the Cable Commission, maintain the Cable Commission, or try to identify some of its duties and move them to the UPTV Commission. They chose option 3.
Okay.
I agree with you that the onus to me is really on council to ask for something. But it is, you know, the Cable Commission, for example, was tasked with providing a yearly report, proactively answering, you know, providing this information proactively.
Yeah.
Whether it's more of as a response to requests from council or not is something that could be fine-tuned in the language. You know, I think the key is this. You know, we were talking about net neutrality as an example right at the time of the commission repeal.
Mm-hmm.
Is council going to say, we need somebody to advise us on net neutrality? Or does somebody need to be staying on top of these issues to say, you know, this net neutrality thing is happening and we think there's a local impact and this is what we believe city council needs to be aware of?
And what is the time commitment of that last option? And what is the staff burden of it? For example, if it were a matter of having a meeting at a time that people can chat about that online, or an email list of being able to do that, well, that would be one thing. But if that is not acceptable based on open meetings stuff, and we have to have formal meetings, and it becomes a heavier burden. I guess I apologize. I didn't see this list in the prior communications if it was provided, but my instinct is that I don't feel comfortable answering that question today, and I would want to try and come up with a better answer than yes or no to these, just verbatim adding these 9. Is that?
To my knowledge, there's no time constraint on this project. So it seems unless Sanford thinks otherwise, it seems like a good idea for me, for maybe you to table this until the next time, and people have more time to think about it. I might also come up with some suggested wording for changes in some of these, or perhaps consolidation in some of these. And if you'd like me to come up with something like that and present it to you at the next meeting, I'd be happy to do so.
I would appreciate that if it's not a heavy burden on your time.
No, I would be happy to do that. I'm concerned that the commission lose its focus on UPTV. And also, I think what Dale was talking about, expertise, we've never postulated that background or interest in telecommunications is a requirement for a UPTV commissioner. And I think some of these things presume an expertise that I certainly don't have, and I don't know. I'm sure some of you do, but some of you don't. So I may consult with each of you individually as to your thoughts about this, and maybe try to craft some language that I have a sense will be acceptable, if that's okay.
The only thing I would add as a suggestion is there may want to be some dialogue with council members. You know, so in terms of what their expectations are or what their needs are, I think that's a very valid question, and I, for one, don't know. I would say that keep in mind that council always has staff to direct. So should they, for example, ask for a briefing on net neutrality, they could ask for that from staff, as opposed to the UPTV commission or any other commission. At the same time, these seem to be laudable goals. I agree with Jake's concern about the focus of this commission. So it sounds like a dialogue, which I know in the Open Meetings Act world is difficult. Maybe that could be something that a single person from this commission could have on an individual basis with different council members to solicit some ideas without, without violating the Open Meetings Act.
Yeah, I had opened a conversation on that topic with some community members, not yet with council. And tabling this would give me the opportunity to revive that conversation and bring it to a conclusion.
It would also always be an option to schedule something at a upcoming committee of the whole, which would be an excellent forum to do that. Yeah, and we can certainly put that on an agenda.
I think it might make sense to do that after our next meeting, based on what we conclude there. All right. So this is tabled to the next meeting with some new wording by Jake and some other work behind the scenes, probably. Moving on to item C, open UPD seat on the commission. You've kind of addressed that.
I did. I jumped ahead, but yeah, I have nothing further to say. We need Mark to apply for the position. The Park District needs to send a notification to the mayor's office that he is their choice, and then I believe it comes up at the next council meeting for approval.
Great. And on to equipment purchases.
You should have the sheet in your packet there. There has been no equipment purchases this last quarter, so I went ahead and included the previous quarter since we didn't have the December meeting. In the previous quarter, we purchased a mobile podium. This has been used several times, ribbon cuttings, any sort of ceremonial type duties that the city participates in that might require a podium. We usually set up the audio visual for that as well. So now we have a podium that we've purchased. This has been requested several times over the years, and it's just we're finally getting to it. And a few odds and end equipment replacement with the microphones there, and then also an equipment replacement with the DSLR camera. Any questions?
Just a quick question regarding the DSLR. Does this mean that now you primarily use DSLRs for video purposes, or do you primarily use video cameras for video purposes?
We primarily use video cameras for most of everything that we shoot. We have the DSLR. This actually functions a lot with the city website, replacing an old DSLR that we had. Most of the time this is used by other city staff as well as UPTV staff if we're out at ribbon cuttings or if we're collecting new photos around town for the website or things of that nature. We do have a couple of projects coming up where we're going to experiment with the video side of that DSLR as well, but it won't be our primary use for that camera.
Jason, what's being replaced?
You know what? I don't have the exact model number, but I know it's a Pentax DSLR camera that we purchased in 2009. Similar type equipment.
And is all UPTV equipment, and specifically is that item available for member use?
That item is not available for member use. We tend to kind of divide some of the equipment between our government access, public access, and education access. The reason, one of the main reasons that we do that is often we lend out a camera and then someone calls up and say, hey, I need it in an extra day or two, I'm out shooting. This kind of relieves the stress of, I have to have it back now. That way we have a camera for government access, we have a couple cameras for education access, and we have 5 cameras for public access.
You might mention it to the membership and see if there's an interest in getting a member use camera of that sort. I was actually just thinking a lot earlier this month that it would be neat if there was a place you could rent a high grade camera.
Absolutely, yeah. I can reach out to that. And I know the media commons at the university undergraduate library has a bunch of equipment that they loan out, and in fact a very professional studio, but I think you have to be at least affiliated with the university in some way, shape, or form.
Interesting. Okay, moving on to commissioners' comments. Do we have any comments from members of the commission? All right. I guess I will express my thanks for the staff for working on the topic of the Cable Commission stuff. It's a topic that is dear to my heart, even if I don't always have time for it. So thanks for working on that. And our next meeting is scheduled for June 8th at noon in these Urbana City Council chambers, and we hope to see all of the members of the public there. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. This meeting is now adjourned.